Yo, I don't think we should talk about this. Come on, we're not. People might misunderstand what we're trying to say, you know?
Well, really, I don't think people misunderstand it. I just think if you're like me, you're just afraid to talk about it. But I think we might as well talk about it. Might as well switch it up. Now let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome to another broadcast of Might As Well Talk About It. For those who have been watching, I'm much obliged. For those that have subscribed, those who have watched, those who have commented, those who have liked my broadcast. It is a great feeling. It just gives me that feeling of purpose, and I'm going to keep going, regardless. People are going to have something to say about anything you do, whether if it's positive or negative. So, hey, I've had my share of doing things that I should not have been doing. So now that I feel like I'm doing something that is my purpose or that I should be doing, I'm definitely not going to be worrying about what people think or what they have to say about this. I'm going to keep plunging forward, and you all help with that. You plunge me forward because I know that you're watching. Somebody's out there watching, and so I must continue to do this. So I just want to say thank you for watching my broadcast. I'm going to keep going. I've been going through anxiety now for about 4 years. I've always been an anxious person. I've always been someone that worried and was afraid, but I didn't know at that time in my younger years that that's what that was. But yes, this journey is just to share the struggles of anxiety and what we're going through. And for me, it's a journey to conquer my fears, the fear of death. I know that there are others out there, many others out there that's going through the same struggle, that share the same struggle with this. And this is for you. I'm doing this for you, and I want to be the face of anxiety. So a lot of times I try to cover or hide with a smile, or at least to continue just doing what I do as a mother, what I know they're used to seeing out of me. I feel like I must do that because I don't want to worry them even more. But yes, there are many people out there who's going through a lot and we don't even know it. So for me, this journey is also special because I get to place the face of an anxiety sufferer, of a woman that's dealing with anxiety and depression. And I want to share my journey with you all, and I hope that it can help at least just one. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I don't want to make this long. I would journal. And then also, if you all remember, for the ones who have watched, I talked about a forum that I joined called Health Unlocked. And on that forum, it is a forum for people who suffers from anxiety and depression. And that forum, I would go on it. So whenever I didn't journal, I was always on Health Unlocked, posting and just basically talking about what I was going through that day. I'm gonna get started. This was one of the posts that I shared, and it was dated on 2016. And I titled it, "My Issue with Anxiety." So I said, I really am to take the advice of so many that has given to me on here because it genuinely is good advice and I believe it. But what my issue is about anxiety and why I believe it's so much harder to get past or move forward or learn to cope with is because why does it seem like each day or every week is always or seems to be something new of a symptom? Maybe if the same thing happened as a symptom the whole time since this all started, that I probably could accept it easier, or even say, well, I know what this is. Kind of like someone that has a fever. A fever brings on the same exact symptoms every single time. Your temperature is high and you may have a chill, you may have chills or maybe not, but at least one knows if they have a fever. They know how to handle it, and they know certain things to do to get past it. But, oh no, not with anxiety. I've gone from 1 week dealing with feeling detached, muscle aches, lightheadedness, and then another week, sharp stab-like headaches, dull headaches, sharp pains in the chest. The next week, dizziness constantly and stomach issues. Next week, nausea, dull headaches, numbness, tingling in certain places. I mean, the list goes on. Brain feels strained. Brain feels like it's draining blood or something, etc. Blurry vision. So it's like, how can I just say, well, I know it's anxiety when it's so widespread of symptoms? How can I ever get comfortable with it when I get hit with something different that keeps me worried? Anybody else know what I mean? So, I would go on this forum, and whatever I'm going through in my mind, whatever I'm struggling with, if I'm feeling frustrated, if I'm getting angry about what I'm feeling, if I just wanted to just ask questions, I would go straight to this forum and just post away. So that was the first one. I'm going to read another one because that was a rather short post. So, help, in desperate need of advice or anyone to share their story of weight issues from this. Did I say that right? Help, in desperate need of advice or anyone to share their story of weight loss issues from this. And so this was dated in 2016. And I said, I'm struggling with the weight loss ever since this anxiety came on me in June. And the fact that I'm steadily dropping weight seems like every month so far I get on the scale, I lose like 5 pounds. Basically, it has drove my anxiety through the roof. Today, I weighed myself and looks like I'm down another 2 pounds from last week. And yes, my nerves was on. Yes, my menses, my menstrual was on that last week when I weighed myself. And so I weighed myself again. So I weighed myself again today, which was 2 days after it has been off. So I don't know if that will make a difference, but still I'm looking at the overall loss since June, basically 20 pounds. Help. Can stress, anxiety do this? I'm worried of some disease or cancer the doctors haven't found. I've stopped being active, which I meant by active was stop going to the gym. So why am I still losing weight? And yes, I do struggle with my appetite. It's not like it used to be. So I have days that I struggle to eat like I want, upset stomach, acid reflux, light nausea, comes and goes. So anyone experienced this weight issue? How was it? I've become so scared to even get on a scale because even if I see 1 pound loss of weight like I did today, I am freaked out. I scheduled an appointment soon as I saw the scale. Now I think I have brought on an anxiety attack because of it. My vision is weird, dizzy, shaky, and now I hope I can eat something today. So basically, I can remember that post, and I remember why I posted it. At that point, again, in that point of my anxiety journey, I had begun to lose weight really bad, and I was just not accepting why I was losing the weight so bad. I wasn't rationalizing that, okay, you're not eating. Of course, the anxiety was disrupting your digestive system and it's disrupting the way that you eat. So I was not even trying to be rational about saying, okay, Ebony, you're not eating. So of course you're going to lose weight, along with, if you think about when you're anxious or when you're afraid, that's adrenaline that's constantly pumping in your body. That's that adrenaline that can, amp up your metabolism to work fast. So I was already going through just constantly being afraid, constantly being anxious. So that kept my adrenaline pumping, along with not eating. I kept thinking constantly that it was something else, like it was a disease. I went from as far as thinking I had HIV, AIDS, thinking it was cancer, thinking it was just some sinister illness that is causing me to lose weight, because I was just saying, why am I losing weight this fast? And at the time I had stopped working out, because before the anxiety had hit me as bad as it did, I was going to the gym, working out, trying to lose some weight. But then when the anxiety came on, anxiety did it all for me. And if I'd have known the anxiety was going to take over, I just would have just waited on that. I was to a point where I was like, I got to go to a scale. I wanted to get on a scale every day if I could. I was stopping by some place that had a weight scale so I could check my weight to see if I was still losing weight. I would constantly be anxious about seeing the scale, but then scared, because I'm like, oh gosh, if I see that I lost even a pound, I'm going to freak out. And that's what was happening to me. Thank you for sitting through that journal or that post. And so on to the fun part, or the part that I really enjoy about my broadcast. And so today's topic that I decided to go with was our OCD thoughts and behaviors that manifest from anxiety, and the bad habits that we gained. And one thing that I said was that I felt I became obsessed with going on Google. I became obsessed with the idea that Google was going to give me the answers that I needed. Even though it made my anxiety worse, I still felt like I could go on Google right now and find out what it is that I need to find out. And so that keyword obsessed, it compelled today's topic to talk about OCD. When I very first heard about OCD and what it was, or when I very first was educated about OCD. Well, I didn't even say educated, but when I very first found out about OCD and what it is, I just had the assumption that OCD were people who were haughty individuals who were overreacting or who overreacted. So when you hear of when I heard of OCD, I would think that it was individuals who, I don't want no germ, nothing to touch me because the germ's going to get on me, or I need to wash again because that person touched me, or something got on me that I don't like, and let me wash my hands constantly, or my house has to be clean a certain way, and it has to be this way, and it has to be lined up perfectly. I just felt like there were people who were just overreacting and just doing the most. That's exactly what I thought about people when I heard of OCD or people having OCD. Never had I thought that it was an array of symptoms or an array of behaviors and thoughts that OCD brings on. So with that said, I would like to first give an example or give a definition of OCD and what I've discovered after trying to educate myself a little more on OCD. OCD usually doesn't happen all at once. Symptoms start small, and to you, they can seem to be normal behaviors. They can be triggered by a personal crisis, abuse, or something negative that affects you a lot, like the death of a loved one. I'm sorry. So OCD symptoms include obsessions, compulsions, or both. An obsession is an uncontrollable thought or fear that causes stress. A compulsion is a ritual or action that someone repeats a lot. Compulsions may offer some relief, but only for a little while. Many people with OCD know that their thoughts and habits don't make sense. They don't do them because they enjoy them, but because they can't quit. And if they do stop, they feel so bad that they start that obsession or that compulsion up again. I just was not aware that I had become that person. I had become obsessed, and my behaviors were becoming very compulsive because it was sparked by the thoughts that I had in my mind about my health and about constantly being afraid, thinking something bad was going to happen to me, or thinking the worst, thinking that I had some type of disease or illness, some sinister illness, and that I was dying. It just brought on these behaviors of me wanting to check for certain things and constantly keep a check on it. Certain behaviors I had, like with being obsessed with checking on Google, being obsessed with checking my stool, being obsessed with checking my weight, being obsessed with looking in the mirror, being obsessed with getting blood work being obsessed with checking my blood pressure, like the checking of my stool. It started from the fact of me experiencing having blood in my stool one day, and I went to go check, and I was like, what is going on with me? Why is there blood in my stool? When I wipe, on the tissue, I see blood. And it just, from there, it got from bad to worse, because when I was in my moments of my thoughts taking control of me and I was just thinking the worst and I was in tunnel vision, just that, or it could just be hemorrhoids, I was not accepting that common symptom of seeing blood in my stool. I immediately went to thinking, oh gosh, it could be colon cancer, it could be bowel cancer. Why am I seeing blood? And like I said, what would frustrate me about the doctors, because yes, I had several times I would go back to the doctors to tell them that I'm seeing blood in my stool. The first thing they would just say, is it bright red? Okay, it's probably a hemorrhoid. We'll give you some type of medicine to help it to go away. And in my mind, I'm like, if you know good and hell well, these same symptoms of blood in your stool or blood that you find on the tissue are indicative of serious illness like cancer or colon cancer, or whatever kind of cancer it could be, why would you just leave it like that and just send me home saying, okay, you got hemorrhoids, you didn't even check? And it frustrated me, and it just continued my fear and worry, because it's like these doctors are not doing enough. So yes, that added to my compulsive behaviors of constantly checking my stool every time I would have a BM. It was to a point where I wouldn't even flush the toilet without checking, I wouldn't put the tissue in the toilet without looking at the tissue. I felt like if I can assess it myself and just see if it looks like some type of abnormal type of blood, or if it just looked like it wasn't the right kind of blood, okay, I'm rushing to the hospital again, because I want these people to check my stool. So I hated how I was losing a lot of weight, and I just didn't like how I was looking on the outside. It made me even more depressed. I was just scared. It was just like, oh gosh, what is happening to me? So from there, it spawned with me constantly wanting to check my weight. So I became compulsive with going to a place where I could check my weight constantly all the time, checking my weight every day or at least every 2 days, like I was going to notice a major difference in those 2 days. But I just felt like, let me check my weight, and if I even notice even 1 pound off, or if I lose 1 more pound, I'm about to go crazy out here. And that's exactly what I was doing to myself. I quit working for a while, and that was the first time I had ever had to stop working. I've been working since I was 15 years old, and I never quit working. The anxiety had pretty much taken over me. I just couldn't handle going to work, not because I couldn't physically do it, because I was able to, but it was the mental that controlled me. I was already going to work depressed and worried, because I was worried about what people was going to say to me. People was going to question me about, why am I losing so much weight and what's going on with you? And yes, I even had times where the anxiety would follow me to work. I would have anxiety attacks or mild panic attacks at work. And like I said, because at the time I was not accepting it fully as anxiety, I still was like, what is happening to me? I do not want to pass out at this job. I don't want people to see me going through this. I just could not handle it. And then because I was a waitress, that was a really tough thing to deal with customers. Or do I need to focus on my health and see what's going on with me? So yes, I chose to take time off because I wanted to see what was going on with me. Was something wrong? What was happening to me? It was new to me. It was all new. It was the beginning stages of the physical symptoms of anxiety. And I just wanted to know. So I felt like taking time off was better for me. But in hindsight, it was almost like not so good, because then I was home more. So being home more, I was thinking more, my mind was racing more, I was ruminating more, I was depressed more. It gave me more time to focus on what was going on, the symptoms I was feeling. I was, being more obsessive, which going on Google more. It was just, so it wasn't that good. But at the time, I wasn't thinking of it like that. I was just like, you know what? My health comes first. I want to take time off to find out what is going on with me. So yes, I had the compulsive behavior of constantly wanting to get my blood work did. I was going from one clinic to the next, because I was like, okay, this clinic done saw my face. I'm fixing to go to the next one because I want to see if I notice any difference. I was comparing blood paperwork I would have almost a full docket of blood work that I have gathered from going to different clinics every month, going from one clinic to the next. I couldn't get out of the idea of why I felt like I needed to constantly get blood work did. So I was getting pricked and sticked like every month, going back spending money, because at the urgent cares, of course, they would take cash, or they only took cash. So I was just spending tons and tons of money going back and forth to these clinics, going from one clinic to the next, because they would say my blood work came back fine. But I'm like, okay, things can change. Like, okay, yeah, you're saying my blood work is fine this month, but what if between that month and now something could have changed? Something can go wrong. Like how can somebody go from 1 minute being healthy to being sick or developing some type of sickness or disease? That means something changed. So I just felt like, for me, if I would constantly go and get my blood work did, I could spot that change. And that's what I was doing. It became that bad for me. So that was one of my compulsive behaviors, as far as that, checking my blood work constantly all the time. I couldn't find that balance to say, you know what? You are fine. Things are okay. If it was going to be bad, you would know this by now. Trust your doctors. I just could not. I couldn't do it. The ones that I'm still being a bit compulsive about today, that one time, I don't know how I got up that braveness to get off the toilet, flush the toilet, and leave out the bathroom without looking in the toilet to check my stool. I don't know how I did it, but I did. That was just that one time, and that was it after that. I've done a lot better. I want to say in this past 6 months to a year, I've been doing better with maybe waiting at least 6 months before I would go and get blood work did. But that, for the first 2 years of me going through this, I was going literally like every month, every other month to get blood work did, getting stuck by different doctors, and I didn't give a darn, because I just wanted to know if I noticed any change. And I was just tearing myself apart trying to figure things out. I found myself these past couple of weeks going on Google more than I have, because I had done really good about staying away from Google and staying off of the social media accounts that kept my anxiety high. I was doing real good, y'all. Like, I was just like, I had gotten over that compulsion of the Google and going on the internet and all of that. But that past few weeks, I was back at it again, kind of just constantly looking at it, trying to reassure myself. And it was just like, oh gosh, you know, here I go. I felt myself kind of slipping in that spiral again, but I was able to talk myself out of it, because I can tell that I'm doing better with my anxiety than I was before. When I first was going through this, I couldn't tell myself nothing. I couldn't talk myself out of anything. But now I'm able to kind of talk myself through it. Thankfully, you know, my daughters kept me busy. They kept me focused. They kept me distracted. You know, the fact that my daughter, she's always busy with something because she's an athlete. And then, of course, my youngest daughter, she's the little diva of the house, and she's busy. So they help keep me sane and focused and distracted enough to where that I can kind of pull out of that abyss of the thoughts. And I'm thankful that I still decided that, you know what, I'm going to do this broadcast regardless of how I'm feeling, regardless of the fact that these thoughts are making me think that, you know, this is it for me. And when I would have those thoughts, it's like, why even pursue anything? Why be ambitious about something if I'm going to be dying soon? And not because I wanted to just not care about who I could affect, or not care about my loved ones or the people that I could come in contact with. It was just the idea that it's like, okay, if I'm dying, what's the point in being excited about something? And that's just how it would draw me to that whole conclusion. And I'm still learning on this journey of anxiety. I'm still trying to educate, figure it out through experience, through reading what others have been going through getting advice and things like that, through studying. So it's still a work in progress for me. As I close out, I want you to listen to the sounds of PM Dawn, Set Adrift on Memory Bliss of You. Yes, that was a long title. What you resist will persist. I'm constantly trying to figure things out, figure it out. That's my issue with anxiety. I'm always trying to just figure it out, and it's just that's what keeps me wondering and keeps me pondering. So it's like every time I try to get over one thing, or I feel like I've conquered one thing with this anxiety, something else always is right there peeking around the corner to hold me down. See, at one point in time, I used to feel like, okay, people, you know, if they had a heart attack, or if they had a stroke, or if they had cancer, it was from them not taking care of themselves, or from them neglecting something, or something that they inflicted on themselves. People are dying who are healthy individuals, or people that wasn't expecting it, because they have went to hospitals to get themselves checked or do whatever they could, and things like this still came about. And it's like, you know, how can I get over accepting it when it's like, regardless if I try to do the right things by myself, by my mind, and by my body, where your focus goes, that's where your energy flows. So let's try to focus on what we want to happen instead of focusing on what we don't want to happen. Because either way it goes, we cannot change a lot of things. And that, like I said, that was my problem with anxiety. I was just always trying to focus on what I didn't want to happen. And I still struggle with it, but I'm learning. We have over about 70,000 thoughts a day. All of those thoughts, you're bound to have some negative thoughts, some obsessive thoughts, some contradicting thoughts, some conflicting thoughts. I can adopt the idea of what plays out in our lives, or our destiny is determined by which thoughts we entertain the most. So we would definitely want to try to entertain the best thoughts, right? Or our better thoughts, because at the end of the day, that's what feels better. So even if we still have to face that nirvana when it comes, at least try to focus more on what you want to see happen. It gives more for you to hope for, even though I still struggle and I go through it. But I'm just saying, of course, I like the idea better of having to think about what it is that I want to happen instead of what I don't want to happen. She was talking about mind-binding spirits. So I will read just a little bit of what she was saying. Pay attention to the condition of your mind and keep it free, peaceful and full of faith. Decide to believe. so too the Holy Spirit comes to our aid and bears us up in our weaknesses. For we do not know what prayer to offer, nor how to offer it worthily as we ought. But the Spirit himself goes to meet our supplication and pleads in our behalf with unspeakable yearnings and groanings too deep for utterance. And that was from Romans chapter 8, verse 26. And as Christians, because I am a child of God, I'm a believer of God, and I do believe in Christ, that we need to learn to decide to believe. God often gives us faith, a product of the Spirit, for things that our minds just can't always seem to come into agreement with. The mind wants to understand everything, the why, the when, and the how of it all. Often, when that understanding is not given by God, the mind refuses to believe what it cannot understand. And back to what I was saying, just to reflect on what I mentioned, I was just always trying to understand it, wanting to understand everything, wanting to figure it all out, just stressing myself, trying to just figure it out, why is this, and how can I change this, and if this does happen, what should I do? Like, just always trying to figure it out. And sometimes it's just not meant for you to do that. It's just better to just want to live in peace about what you're going through. So it frequently happens that a believer knows something in his heart, his inner man, but his mind wars against it. I'm willing to keep up with the good fight of trying to get through it and trying to conquer my fears the best way that I can, trying to accept what I cannot change. I would like for you all to comment. Feel free to interact with my broadcast. This is for you all. This is for those out there who don't understand anxiety, and I'm just trying to raise the awareness so that you all can understand what it is that we are going through day in and day out. I would like to thank you all for sitting through my broadcast as I talk about what it is that I can't change. We might as well talk about it, right? Might as well. So again, I'm Ebony J, and I just want to say thank you. I will see you all next time.